All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Decaf Coffee with Carlsen. Super excited to be here tonight. I know it's a little bit unique that we're having it at night, number one, we're having it virtually, number one, number two, but we're super happy that you all were able to join us tonight. So hang in there with us as we go through the process of a new age of Coffee with Carlsen. I did bring my favorite mug, so my little buddy, she's probably not on, but she might be on later, so cheers. Again, welcome to everybody again, this is a little bit of an interesting scenario as we're enjoying our virtual evening together. I do want to go ahead and thank Northwestern Medicine for their awesome generosity year over year sponsoring Decaf Coffee with Carlsen this year. And I also want to briefly shout out to Bill McMahon and his family at Faranda's. And I promise him as soon as we get back in person, we will be back in person and having it so we can see each other. Also, a really wonderful thank you to our extraordinary technology guru here, that's actually to my right, Quinn Rear, who's doing a really great job figuring out the Zoom and having everybody on this together and making this super special for our program. Another thank you goes out to all the donors. Over 850 donors contributed to the Huskies Invest event that was in November. That is this month. This was this month. That we just concluded. So we're over $450,000 to our department, really filling in some really necessary gaps to get us through this year that is COVID. I wanted to talk a little bit tonight before we bring Coach on about our fans at our games. And unfortunately, I think some of you have probably heard about this just through social media or otherwise, that for at least the short term, we are not going to be able to have fans in our arena at our home games. It's unfortunate. Obviously, none of us wanted this to happen this long, but we will be on a bit of a fan pause for at least the next 6 weeks. So I know Coach is going to talk about our games that are upcoming. So luckily, you'll all be able to watch them virtually. I do want to let you know about a great opportunity, though, for you to actually be in the stands without being in the stands. And that's to purchase a cutout of your face, and we're going to put it in the arena. We're going to put them all together and all the families together, alumni together, and really have kind of some fun times with it. They're $60. You get to put whatever face you want on there, which is kind of fun. And Quinn's going to put this information on links to this cutouts in the chat. The only kind of timeline that we're dealing with right now is that we need this all locked in, signed up, paid, picture by the 16th in order to be at our game on the 25th. So take a look at that. If you have any questions, obviously you know how to get a hold of me, you know how to get a hold of Coach. But for football, we've had over 250 fans sign up for these cutouts. And if you've seen the football game last week, I know you probably saw a pan of them on the video screen. A couple other fun things we're going to try to get done here in the next few weeks before our first game is to relaunch our Husky Bingo. I know there's a couple of folks out there that played Husky Bingo with us last year, and it was very complex. And we tried to track it while we were in the arena, in the convocation center. So this year we're going to make it a little simpler. Hopefully a lot more people will play it, and we'll have a fun time engaging with our fans since you aren't able to be in person. Another really cool opportunity is this mobile app that's been recently released. It's if you have iPhone or Android, you can download that through the App Store or the Android Store. I'm sorry, I don't have an Android, so I don't know what that's called. But Quinn's going to put also a link to do that as well in the chat here shortly. That's a mobile app that you can engage with us during the game. So there's going to be live stats and some trivia. And some other fun stuff to take a look at. So that's going to progress and get better as the season goes. So I just wanted to recap a little bit. We're unfortunately not going to be able to have fans at our games, at least for the first 6 weeks of our contests. But you will be able to watch them on the ESPN platform. So I know some of us maybe need to get reconnected with that for our season, or also on the radio. And that also is available on the TuneIn app if you're not local. So lots of different opportunities to make sure you're connected with us still and still engaged with what we're doing. So that's important, obviously, as we continue with our great fan engagement with our kids. Quinn's having me talk a little bit about logistics on Zoom. A couple things. We'll be able to turn the cameras on when we open up for questions. This will be at the end of our show. If you wouldn't mind, if you know how, right click on your picture and change your name to your name so we know who you are. That would be helpful. If you don't know how, don't worry about it. Just something we can do in the short term. There are going to be two ways to ask questions. You can type your question in the chat box. You can do that anytime. You can do it now if you want me to answer a question, but you probably don't. But it will accumulate the questions and Coach will answer them at the end. Or you can type in the chat you'd like to ask your question live. Quinn will turn on your video. You'll be able to ask it, and then Coach will answer your great question. So that is Zoom. Hopefully everybody's been on Zoom before. We're 8.5 months into this thing. So hopefully this is something that everyone is more used to. So without further ado, I know people are like, I really don't care about all this stuff. We just heard that we can't have fans, but at the end of the day, when can we talk to Coach Carlsen? So without further ado, in her 6th season, I will let her come up and tell you all about Husky women's basketball.
Now I'm good, right? Okay, maybe not the greatest transition, my fault. We'll get better at that, I promise. Good evening, everybody. You know, nothing beats the opportunity to see all of you in person, but we're gonna make this a little bit fun tonight. So at least give you an opportunity to know or meet this year's roster. I wanna start off by just thanking Deborah, thanking Sean for their continued leadership, especially during this time when it's been pretty challenging, to say the least. To know that we have two great people at the helm that are really helping us maneuver through everything that changes on a day-to-day basis is something that's very comforting for all of us, I think, from a head coach's standpoint, and really for all the programs involved here at NIU. It's been a crazy year, and that's something that all of us are challenged with on the daily, but I think what we're going to be able to do tonight is talk a little Husky women's basketball, which is super exciting. We have a great lineup for you. I'll talk a little bit about the roster, and then I'm going to bring in my associate head coach, Adam Tandez. Adam's going to talk a little bit about how the recruiting process works for getting future Huskies here on our roster and how unique a challenge that is specific to NIU. And then we're going to bring in our 3 seniors that we have on this year's roster, and they're going to talk a little bit about essentially what the last 8 months have been like for them. As Deborah mentioned, I'm starting my 6th year here at NIU, and this roster probably has the biggest turnover since I've been here. We had a roster with 5 exceptional seniors last year, and so a lot of new faces present themselves. But I don't think that we will skip a beat in what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. One of the beauties of having a young roster is that we really see exceptional growth almost day to day. That's been fun to watch, not just in the off season, but daily at practice lately. And so I think this is going to be a roster that's very exciting to watch. You know, some things don't change with how we approach things. We're always going to be a team that's going to look to play fast-paced basketball, score the basketball rapidly, shoot the 3, and really get up and down. And we think that this roster is probably more equipped to do that maybe than any we have ever had. I find myself comparing them in a lot of ways to that 21-win team that went to WNIT. And that will definitely be our goal. You know, this is a team that we feel can put themselves in position to play postseason basketball. That will always be our goal, but I feel like regardless of our youth, this is a roster makeup that can get that done. I also like to evaluate our competitive success a lot of times in 3 different areas. The first one we talk about is just sheer talent. You know, do we have the talent on the roster to be successful, especially in the league? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think the talent on this roster is good enough to compete for a MAC championship. The other thing that we talk about is in what I believe a lot of times separates us is what is our culture like. I think the Huskies of the past, since I've been here, have established a culture that is extremely unique and provides a family atmosphere for sure. And so I think culturally we're in a really good place. And I think the other piece of it is, what is our strategic game plan? One of the things that I think, again, is unique about this situation is I didn't have any turnover when it came to my coaching staff. And with a year under our belt of working together and understanding what I need from them, what they contribute to the game plan and everything on a day-to-day basis, I think we as a coaching staff unit are much, much more cohesive and ready to challenge this roster. So with those three things in place, again, I feel great going into the season. I want to briefly talk a little bit about my staff, but during the course of Coffee with Carlsen, in the next few times that we have it, you're going to get an opportunity to hear from each of them, which I think will be a great opportunity to get to know them a little bit better, and also to find out what their areas of emphasis are and responsibility around our program. So I mentioned that you're going to get an opportunity to hear from Adam tonight. He's my associate head coach. He begins his 5th year with me, so we have great chemistry and great camaraderie when it comes to what we want to see happen in this program. And he's going to talk a little bit about recruiting. He's also a brand new father again, great girl dad, so he'll probably have a few gloating moments there with the new baby at home. Alexis Lawrence and Jane Stewart are both starting their 2nd year. And again, I mentioned that we had a lot of turnover in our staff last year, and with everybody back, I feel much more comfortable about what we're able to convey to the team on the daily. And then we have 2 GAs, and again, neither of them are brand new to the program. Corey Johnson joins us as a graduate assistant, but Corey started 3 years ago as a practice player for us. And then last year he was a manager for us, and this year he's a graduate assistant. So again, a staple that has been around and been such a huge contributor in a lot of different ways to our program. And then our other graduate assistant is Allie Lehman. And many of you remember Allie when she donned the Husky uniform and all the success that she had here as a player. So we're really excited. I'm obviously elated to have her back. And I think she brings a whole sense of pride, especially to the program, that the players definitely feed off of. As I mentioned earlier, the offseason has been challenging, and maybe one of the biggest challenges is when we all left each other in the spring. There was about 4 or 5 months there where we didn't get a chance to see each other. And for basketball at the collegiate level, that's something that's just not anything that you're used to. So we weren't together for postseason. We weren't together for much of the summer. And so what was that like in the interim? And I think the seniors will talk a little bit about what that was like for them. But the one thing that I do believe it taught us is to value each day that we get the opportunity to be together, and each day that we get the opportunity to compete together on the floor. You know, coming off a season where I think a lot of us would say we underachieved, I think all of the challenges have put us in a much better position to be ready for this season. Much of what we build around is built around young players, but game experience is something that you just can't replicate in practice. So we have a lot of young players who got an opportunity to see the floor last year that will be in much different roles this year, but I think has prepared them for what that looks like. We have 3 seniors on this year's roster, and again, they'll be here a little bit later. Riley Blackwell is somebody who's been around and had been a staple in our lineup ever since the day she stepped on campus. You know, many times when we talk about Riley, she's one of those players that's always in the right place at the right time. Very few mistakes are made on either end of the floor when Riley's on the floor. So she's a glue player for us, really, in both schemes. And she's also a very unselfish player. So she puts her teammates in great positions to have success. Paulina Castro returns as a 5th-year senior. And again, somebody who's been plagued a lot during the course of her career from an injury standpoint, but knock on wood, is probably healthier now than she ever has been. She was voted a team captain. And again, for somebody who maybe hasn't logged a ton of game minutes, the respect that her teammates and coaches have for her to be able to wear the C is something pretty special. And then Rachel Dumblin is our other senior. Rachel was a junior college transfer for us last year, came from Elgin Community College, had a stellar career there, came in as a walk-on, and in the last year has earned herself a scholarship spot. And I say earned because she does everything that's asked of her on a daily basis. So those three seniors, I think, are the epitome of what you want unselfish basketball players to be. And so we're excited to have them lead the way when it comes to our roster. Our junior class is essentially led in a lot of ways, I think, by Erin Hodges. Erin missed last season with a knee injury, and she is a difference maker in all facets of the game. You know, somebody who is an explosive slasher, especially in the full court, is really active on the defensive end, causes a lot of problems for the other team's offense, and somebody who's really a tenacious rebounder. And I think we obviously missed Erin in some of those areas last year, but she looks great. It's so good to have her back on the floor for her junior season. John A. Poison also has really battled knee injuries the last few years, but has really regained a lot of the confidence in some of her form that she had as a freshman. So we're excited to have John A. back. Michaela Brandon, also somebody who's made great strides in the offseason. If we can keep her healthy, no reason why she won't be a mix at the forward position. And then Emily Minor is a junior college transfer forward also, adds great depth and great athleticism to that forward position especially. So she'll find herself in the rotation and gives us great length and athleticism at the post position. Our sophomore class is really probably the most dynamic, to be honest with you. We have three sophomores that last year as freshmen played significant roles off the bench for us. Grace Hunter is a player who started 13 games for us last year as a true freshman. Again, battled a little bit of an ankle injury at times, but when she was on the floor, we really relied on her heavily to be a great defender, and somebody that plays with an exceptional amount of energy all the time. Also voted as a team captain this year, so the respect that her teammates have, especially for her work ethic and energy, is a great compliment to her. Shelby Coker will run the point guard position for us. You know, I don't think that anybody has put in more work in the offseason than Shelby has. She wants to be great. It's not enough for her to just be good and be able to fill a spot and be a starter. She wants to be great, and she wants to be relevant, not just for her team, but in the league. So I think she will end up being not just a leader on our team, but somebody in the MAC that will end up being one of the toughest guards to guard. Asia Davis, a post player from right here in DeKalb, again, somebody that as the season went on last year, gained more and more experience and more playing time. You know, she had a game against Ohio where she had 17 rebounds, which is just a crazy number. And she understands that we need the ball to go through her in order for us to have great balance on the offensive end. So I love the progress that Asia's made. I love the confidence that she's playing with right now. So those three that I mentioned especially will be a huge focal point for us when it comes to what we're trying to do on the floor this year. And then we have another sophomore transfer from Long Beach, Alexis Legan, who is a lefty, and probably her biggest asset on the offensive end is that she's really a great jump shooter. Alexis is also somebody who works really hard and wants to be great. So we're excited to welcome her to the program and what the next 3 years will look like for her. So that rounds out our sophomore class. We have three freshmen on this year's squad. Our tallest player on the roster is Brooke Stonebrocker, and she is a 6'3" lefty post player. You know, Brooke's ceiling is great because of her length and her ability to run the floor, which is probably the most intriguing piece of her game. You know, she's going to get an opportunity to really grow and learn from some upperclassmen that's going to help her game down the road. So we see her grow daily in practice, as you do a lot of times freshmen. So we're excited about what that looks like for her in the future. Sydney Mcrae is a 5'10" guard, another lefty out of Cedar Rapids. Sid right now especially is an extremely smart player. I sometimes compare her, or will continue to compare her in a lot of ways, to Riley as far as right place, right time. She has a great understanding of schemes on both ends, and is going to be really a knockdown shooter for us, somebody who's very confident shooting the ball from three-point range, and something we'll expect her to do at a high rate. And then our other freshman is Jaden Maribel, a point guard out of Bolingbrook. Again, Jaden's upside is tremendous. Good athlete, can score at all three levels. I think once she understands the intensity really on both ends of the floor that goes on at the collegiate level, she has all the tools to be a great player. So we're excited about those 3 young players as well. You know, the NCAA has recently come out and said that winter sport athletes are going to be granted another year of eligibility, which is tremendous, especially when you have a young squad like we do. So the more you can get to know this roster, the more beneficial it's going to be, because it's going to be a number of familiar faces for the next few years. We're going to try and do everything we can. And I know for a while it may be virtual, but for you to get to know this roster, they're really going to be a staple of what we try and do. Deborah mentioned a little bit about our non-conference schedule. Another adjustment to this season is our non-conference got cut a little bit shorter. You know, we're not starting until November 25th, where normally today would be opening day. So we've just played 5 non-conference games. We will open with Illinois State here at home, and we'll make sure that you guys have all the information that you need to view that game on the ESPN platform. We'll get that information out and all the details that surround that game as soon as we know them. But Illinois State, again, a very formidable opponent, will put us in position to really kick things off against somebody who will prepare us for what we're going to see come league play. Then we will travel to Eastern Illinois, where we'll play in the Compass Challenge, which is the last couple of years really been a fun event for everybody in the state, where Eastern, Western, Southern, and obviously us compete for the Compass Challenge trophy. So we will open up against Eastern, Western and Southern will play each other, and then winners and losers will play the following day. The last 2 non-conference games will be at Bradley and at Michigan State. So again, the makeup of teams that we play, I think are a great blend to prepare us for opening league play. Actually, we will probably open league play with 1 game before the holiday. It'll be Ohio here at home. Usually, it will be probably in mid-December, probably the 16th, which will be a little bit different. A few changes to our MAC schedule. So we play 20 MAC games this year instead of 18. So what that means is that will change how the conference tournament is run. Just the top 8 teams in the MAC will qualify for the conference tournament and will go straight to Cleveland. So not that every MAC game isn't always important from the very beginning, but they'll become even more critical because only 8 will go straight to Cleveland and compete for the MAC title. So that's really exciting. I think it's an opportunity, again, to play 2 more league games to really get a feel for where we stand. And our expectation, obviously, is to be in that top 8 and advance to Cleveland and make a run at it. I mentioned earlier, I think we have the talent to do that. I think this team is hungry and thirsty to do that. I think one thing that's special about this team that I see really early in practice is they love to play together. They love to share the basketball. It's not just about getting theirs, but they're just as excited about making the people around them better. So that's pretty exciting as well. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, as I mentioned when I opened, it's not the most ideal, but I definitely look forward to the opportunity to see many of you, continue to talk to many of you, and keep you as engaged as we can with the program, and knowing that you will be able to watch us on TV from the comfort of your living room. I will open it up for questions later, but what I want to do right now is I want to introduce Adam Tandez, my associate head coach. And again, I'm going to give him a few minutes to talk a little bit about his biggest role within this program. And then I'll jump back on and I'll introduce our seniors. So with that, here's Adam.
Good. All right. Hi, everyone. As Coach Carlsen mentioned, I'm Adam Tandez. I'm entering my 5th season working for her. First, just want to echo what Deborah and Coach have already said. Thank you to all of you guys for joining us and sticking with us through the start of a continuation of a tough 2020 and the start of a tough year. And then obviously one thing I've learned in my 5 years here is starting from the top with our athletic director, Sean Frazier, and then Deborah, obviously, and Coach Carlsen, and then through Quinn's hard work, their commitment to our fans, you guys, and how that impacts our program day to day. So I just want to, again, echo their appreciation. You know, Coach asked me a couple days ago in planning this to talk a little bit about how we handle recruiting, which is off the court probably my favorite thing to do as a part of a basketball program. I'm very fortunate that Coach has trusted me to do that for her program. So I'll touch on a few things that are very, very important for us. I think Coach mentioned a couple times our culture. So the very first thing that we have to do as a staff, and I do mean staff, our whole staff is involved in the entire recruiting process, and everyone from the top, starting with Coach Carlsen, is great in how we do things and how we have done things in all 5 years I've been here, but definitely the past 2 years, again, like Coach said, with the continuity of personnel. You know, every day we're re-recruiting our current roster. I think that's the first thing. If you want to fight for your culture every day, you got to fight for your kids every day as well. They have to understand that they're appreciated. They have to understand what they're working for. And Coach does a great job painting a tremendous vision and kind of the pathway for them to understand as we move forward every day. So that's the first part. Then you kind of continue down that self-awareness or that self-evaluation train. And the very next step is we have to evaluate our own growth. And a part of our own growth that we're evaluating, we have to evaluate our want to. You know, Coach talked about a couple of our players who have great motors, who have great internal drive to push themselves every day. We're evaluating that as a staff. As much as we're talking about scouting reports and game plans, we're talking about, well, how much does so-and-so want to get better? How much does so-and-so put shots in the gym on their own time? We evaluate those things from an internal staff conversation to see, okay, well, where do we need to fit in with finding kids that are great individual workers and who want to really, really love the game and leave a mark, similar to what Allie Lehman wanted to do, one of our GAs this year. At the same time, we're also evaluating the growth of the league, you know, obviously understanding how tough the MAC is day in and day out, and how tough our competition is. And we obviously intersect in terms of a lot of the same recruiting areas. So there is a lot of kids who will have multiple MAC offers or are getting phone calls, letters, and whatnot from the same MAC schools. And so that's a constant evaluation for us as well. And then you can't ignore matriculation, kids graduating, moving on, you know, those present their own needs, of course. And then you do a lot of film work. So a part of our job as assistants, as we watch film on previous years, and Coach Carlsen, she gets a feel on certain things after watching film in the off season. She's like, I want this, we need this in future classes, whether that's a certain skill set or that's a certain mentality. You know, we talk about that daily as a staff, and we identify those needs. So from a planning standpoint, that's where it starts. It starts at looking ourselves in the mirror and being honest with ourselves in terms of what we need and how we're going to get to really live out Coach Carlsen's vision for this program. In terms of how it then plays out, this was a unique year without being able to travel to go watch any high school summer tournaments, AAU tournaments, and then also we won't be able to do that until 2021 if the NCAA lifts the travel ban, hopefully. So we've done a lot of film. We've watched a ton of film. It kind of just goes, instead of kind of getting a little bit of break from film in the off season from scouting reports, we kind of went right into AAU film in the spring and then AAU film in the summer, to getting film from kids with their trainers and individual workouts and summer leagues and things like that. So there's been a ton of that. We're also getting a ton of international film. You know, we work with a couple international scouts out there that kind of give us a pulse of kids that are in the mid-major range. The unique thing for us, which the film part has actually been okay this year, is being in the MAC. We have the unique opportunity to really steal, if you will, some kids that have some Power 5 interest. You know, there are some really good players in our league that could play in the Power 5 level. Then we also have to keep tabs on kids that maybe when they're a little bit younger, were more so Division II recruits or a little bit lower level Division I recruits. We've got to keep such a huge pool. And this year that's been interesting again with film. Then it's really hitting the ground running when you're allowed to, talking to AAU coaches, high school coaches, guidance counselors, any connection you may have to kids and to their high schools and their programs. And then again, if you have any scouts or recruiting agencies that you work with. And then when the time comes, it's really about connecting with those players that you want to be in your program. And that whole process, almost never goes as it seems. Kids have options, as they should. They're working hard. They're committed to basketball by this point later in their high school careers. They're committed at a very, very high level, and they put in so much time. So then it really becomes, okay, how are we presenting ourselves uniquely and differently to this one individual, better and different than another equally as successful program, or another coaching staff with a great pedigree, or another coaching staff from a great basketball league? How are we connecting with that kid to beat those successful programs, those strong recruiting programs out? And that's a daily process. Fortunately, like Coach said, it does come down to our culture. And, one of the first things that I learned in my first year here, Coach, she used the phrase volume of work. So I think more than ever, that's the thing that we've been evaluating the most in recent years. Are we recruiting kids that, again, have that work ethic, that aren't afraid of the volume of work to come here with a chip on their shoulder and really attack every day to the best of their ability? That's what we have to figure out. And then you do have to have the requisite skill set to play here. Coach Carlsen run teams are always going to run fast. We want to be the most in shape team in the league. We want to be the most in shape team on the floor in non-conference and conference and postseason. So do we have the capacity to do that? Do our recruits have the capacity to do that? And then the last thing I'll say again is, one thing that Coach Carlsen says, a lot of coaches say it, players really end up determining their playing time. That's the same for our roster. Players end up really determining how we recruit, right? If we have kids that are on the current roster that are doing everything asked of them and going above and beyond that, and then delivering when the time comes, that really adjusts how we're going to recruit for that year and years moving forward. If there's a deficiency there, or if kids don't pan out, let's say due to injury or any number of things, then that presents needs and holes that we've got to fill as a staff. And the last thing, I guess, everyone, like I said, is involved in this. Coach Allie Lehman, Coach Corey Johnson, they've been heavily involved in film, statting games, searching through AAU summer catalogs and finding stuff for us, all the way up through Coach Alexis and Coach Jane being great and how they connect with prospective student athletes, and then staying connected with them with their relationship skills, and then everything from how we mail kids and how we stay connected to them from a daily basis, and then Coach Carlsen as well. Fortunate enough to do this for her for the 5th year, like I said, and we're going to keep doing our best to bring the absolute best players here to NIU. Thank you guys again. Thanks for being here, and I'm going to let Quinn take it away.
All right, I'm going to have our seniors come up here and talk to you a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, Riley Blackwell, Paulina Castro, and Rachel Dumblin are going to talk a little bit about their experience and especially what it's been like the last year. So seniors, come on up.
Hi, I'm Riley Blackwell. I'm from Plainfield, Indiana. I'm a senior, accounting major. I'm graduating this December, so next semester I will be starting grad school. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Paulina Castro. I'm from Elgin, Illinois. My major is kinesiology. I'm currently finishing up my undergrad right now, and I will be graduating in December and starting my master's with digital marketing in the spring.
Hello, my name is Rachel Dumblin. I'm from Hampshire, Illinois. I'm a senior this year. My major is mechanical engineering, and my current graduation date is December of 2021.
Okay, so I'm gonna start kind of like Coach said earlier, just talking about how COVID affected our team early on. So like Coach mentioned, we're usually here over the summer, so that was a little different. It was nice to get to spend more time with our families, but it obviously presented different challenges. So our coaches sent us basketball and lifting workouts for us to do at home so that we could stay in shape and be as prepared as possible when we were allowed to come back. And then we also found some creative ways to stay connected. We did several Zoom meetings as a team, and then we also read a couple books, including The Energy Bus and Training Camp, which were just fun and unique ways to get to know each other a little better and just talk when we weren't actually together.
Right now, because of COVID, we have to take a lot of different precautions that aren't a normal thing for us. So as you can see, we wear masks at all times during lift, during practices. And then we're also doing regular testing just to ensure our safety. And then of course, the coaching staff just heavily influences us to social distance and just to stay within our bubble to make sure that we are as safe as we can be right now.
As Riley and Pauline had said earlier, we're just happy to be coming back and playing with a full roster. We're lucky to have practices and lifts and individuals that a lot of people don't have the chance to have. So we're really lucky for that opportunity and just looking forward to our season coming up. Our first game is in 15 days. Unfortunately, we can't have fans, but we're excited for people to watch online or listen to the radio and be there to support us.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, so I think as Quinn is unmuting everybody and letting people have an opportunity to potentially ask questions, I know we have a couple of special guests on that I do want to recognize. I think Coach Sutcliffe is on from softball, and I think Coach Kester is on from women's golf. You know, any of you who have been to Coffee with Carlsen in person, I always think it's pretty special when some of the other head coaches from our women's programs join me on those mornings. And the thing that we aren't able to do this year is giving all the programs an opportunity to talk a little bit about their programs in particular. So if any of you have questions that are pertaining to potentially to softball or women's golf, I'm sure they would be more than happy to answer those questions. And I know Sean has joined us as well, so we appreciate Sean being on. But I will start with, or Quinn will let me know what questions have come through. And if any of you have any other questions, I think you can raise your hand and Quinn will unmute you, or she'll send them in the chat, or she'll yell across the room. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work, but we will wing it as we go. So Quinn, you tell me what I need to do. Oh, there we go.
All right, the first question you have, Coach, is how different will it be without fans in the stands for coaches and student athletes?
You know, we've obviously gotten that question a lot recently, since we now know that we won't have fans. I think if I ask the players, though, from a competitive standpoint, they're just so anxious to get back on the floor. It will be weird for sure when we step on the floor for the first time and nobody's in the stands. But I think once we get going and we're in game, and I would assume, I would say this for the other team as well, everybody's just so excited to get back on the floor that we'll adjust. But I don't want people to think they can't watch us. So I continue to reiterate, you can always watch us on the ESPN platform. So don't forget about us so that when you can come back in person, you're well versed on what you see on the floor.
Next question, what is the team hashtag for this season?
Oh, the team hashtag. So, you know, many of you, I'm sure, over the last few months have followed what's going on from a country standpoint, and really the social justice movement and the emphasis put on what that's like. This team has taken that to heart for sure. And we've talked extensively about what that looks like on the national landscape as far as social justice is concerned. So our wristbands this year say "Be the Change." And many of you may have seen our social media programming on Wednesdays that's called Women of Change. And Coach Alexis Lawrence has done such a phenomenal job of helping us put together really an educational platform when it comes to all issues involving social injustices. So a lot of our conversations have been educating all of us on what that looks like and what we can do to make a difference. So our wristbands say "Be the Change." So that's our hashtag this year.
Okay, we have a couple questions from Steve Calber. First one, what roles will you fill on this year's team?
Well, I tell you what, the roles that have to be filled with the exodus of our seniors last year will be plentiful. But I think you'll see, you know, especially with the graduation of someone like Courtney Woods, you know, somebody who scored 2,000 plus points in her career and such a huge part of what we did offensively over the time that she was here. I think we'll see a much more balanced scoring attack. Again, I compare this team a little bit to the 16-17 team that really prided themselves in sharing the basketball. I see that with this group. I think we're going to score the basketball at a high rate. I really do. And I think defensively, we'll be tenacious on that end of the floor in order to create a lot of possessions. So to answer the question, what do we have to fill? You know, essentially we have to fill all positions, and all areas will be by somebody else. But some of the players that I mentioned when I went through the roster, I think are ready to really step up what their role entails on the floor. And I think we'll have a lot of people who can do a lot of different things.
Next one, is there any way to know what MAC teams will be strong this year?
Well, I can definitely give my opinion on what that will probably look like. You know, if you look at, especially since I've been here, Central Michigan has been one of those teams that has been strong every year. And I expect them to, again, be towards the top of the league. They return everybody from last year's roster that was, you know, poised to play postseason basketball as well. So I think you always have to start the conversation with what does Central have returning. And they have especially a couple of really dynamic players. I think Ohio will be another team that will be really, really strong, returning a lot of the core of their team from last year that was at the top of the league then. So if I had to pick two teams as far as the strength of the MAC, I would have to say Central and Ohio especially will be the teams to beat, and the Huskies.
We have a question coming from this room. Can you talk about the upcoming recruits that we may be signing?
Yeah, so this is early signing period, actually starting tomorrow. So no, I cannot tell you their names. No, I cannot tell you a lot about them, but I can tell you that we are going to sign 2 players early this week, and that we're really excited about. Again, I think perfect fits for the program, and they'll be added to, like I mentioned, this year's roster to really give us some added depth in those positions. So I can't tell you a ton, but when we get back together in December, I promise to tell you more about them.
Another one, have the NCAA rules changed how you have to recruit this year?
Matt, so Adam mentioned a little bit, the hardest thing I think has been that we haven't been able to see any of the players in person. Especially in the summer. July is such a huge recruiting month for us. I mean, we're out able to watch AAU teams play for just about the entire month, and we'll see thousands of kids. And so that piece of it obviously has been a lot more difficult, and Adam attested to, it just makes film breakdown or film evaluation that much more critical. So that's been the biggest change. I don't think it has, because of the diligence of my staff, I don't think it has necessarily changed how much we understand the kids that we're trying to recruit and how they're going to fit into the program. It just becomes, it's probably harder for me because I love to go watch them in person and really evaluate some of those things different than just their skill set. But I have the utmost trust in my staff that we can continue to get the right players in here for what we're trying to do.
Next one is from one of your players, John A. What are you most looking forward to this season?
Well, since it's from John A., I am definitely looking forward to you being back on the floor. There you go. All the love to you, kid. You know, I've mentioned a couple times, but I have really, really enjoyed coaching this team thus far. I think our depth is definitely going to be an asset. I think our versatility is definitely going to be an asset. I think right now I could put 3 to 4 different lineups out there, and it would be difficult for teams to scout and prepare for. So, I think that's what I'm most excited about is having these guys get a chance to put a uniform on and really show what they're able to do against somebody else. And that's generally what you'll hear from coaches this time of year. As it gets closer to game time, you're just anxious to play somebody else. And I think that right now for sure is the most exciting part.
Next question from Donna. COVID has obviously presented some negative changes, but have you seen any positives come from this new normal?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it's really easy to focus on all the things that COVID has taken away from us. But I would think the one thing that has been a positive is, our players have a very down-to-earth understanding of what's important, just big picture wise. They got an opportunity to spend some significant time with their families in the spring and summer, which for a college athlete, it just doesn't happen. And I would say that personally for me as well. Some of us get so wrapped up in what we're doing professionally or as a college athlete that we forget, not necessarily forget, but we maybe take for granted some of our family and friends' time that are really important to us. I think, so from that standpoint, I think it has really kept a lot of people in check from a priority standpoint, and that continues to evolve when they're back to being able to being on the court and understanding that is really a blessing.
Next question. How has Allie Lehman's transition to coaching been?
I tell you what, Allie, she's been such a pleasure to have around. As a player, her tenacity on the floor, it's evident that that's the way she wants to coach. And I think our players already feel that and feed off of that. She would still love to get out there, and we've asked her on occasion to get out there and help us in practice from a practice player standpoint. But it's fun to watch her really dive into some of the other aspects that many times players don't understand go into coaching. I mean, they see game day and they see practice, but the hours in the office and the other things that go into coaching, it's kind of like watching freshmen grow. Watching graduate assistants grow is a lot the same way. And we're excited. I think Allie's going to be a phenomenal coach, and she's a great worker. So that's going to be fun.
The next one from Abigail. What is the biggest challenge that COVID has caused for this season?
I mean, I think the challenges are just how different some of the protocols are. You know, I mean, we're obviously the most notable for everybody probably on this call is playing in front of no fans is something that I don't think anybody thought that they were going to sign up for. But the extensive testing, the different safety protocols that are in place, while we all agree that they are absolutely necessary, and I can't thank our medical staff and our athletic training staff enough for doing everything possible to keep our players and staff and everybody safe, it's just so different. You know, the way we will travel, how things will be on the road, what things will be like at other institutions and other playing facilities, how things will be here for us. I mean, it's all different. So it's all a challenge, but I think our players are definitely adjusting well and will continue to do whatever it takes to stay safe.
Next one. Do you think we'll be in the top 8 and head to Cleveland?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't sit up here and say, no, we're definitely not going to be in the top 8. I mean, that's going to be our goal. I think this team is poised to do that. Again, a lot of people in the MAC won't know a ton about us because our roster is different. And I think the growth of our young players has been so significant. There may be people and coaches or people associated in the MAC that don't necessarily have us picked to be in the top 8. I don't know that. But do I believe that we're going to be in the top 8? Absolutely.
Okay, last question from John A. And I know Deborah had mentioned this at the beginning, but she's wondering if there will be cardboard cutouts in the stands.
There will absolutely be cutouts. I know that we have some already signed up and ready to go. And obviously, Deborah talked about the 16th being the deadline for people to get those taken care of. And I think that's such a fun thing to obviously have as part of our atmosphere when we don't have actual people to see friendly faces in the stands. Is just one more thing that COVID has presented to us, but a great marketing ploy to really have some familiarity in the stands. So yes, we will have cardboard cutouts.
One more just came in from Sue. Is there anything that fans could do to make it a senior year better for the seniors?
You know, I just can't emphasize enough that I encourage all of you to watch us on game day. You know, I think my staff, and in particular Quinn, does such a great job of continuing to try and keep you as engaged as possible, whether that be through email or on all of our social media platforms. And we will continue to do that. And we obviously love any interaction or suggestions that you guys might have to make it as engaging as possible, even though it might not be able to be in person. I think there's creative ways where we can continue to really get to know this roster and have the players be as in tune to what's going on outside of the court with you all as our fans as possible. So I would just encourage you to continue to follow us, because someday, hopefully very soon, there will be that opportunity to be back in the stands and watching us play. And, you know, ideally that's still this season, and we will keep you as updated as possible when in fact that becomes available.
That's all the questions.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring Deborah back up just for a quick wrap up. But again, I just want to thank all of you for being with us tonight, and we'll do this again in December. And in between time, we'll have played a couple games, so we'll have some more basketball to talk about. You guys have a great night.
back on. All right. Again, thank you so much, everybody. We are, like I said, sort of traversing new waters here on this virtual decaf coffee with Carlsen. I hope everyone was able to have some decaf coffee and join us there. Again, we do have our first home game on 11/25. Coach Carlsen mentioned it. It's at a 1 o'clock start. So hopefully as you're getting your turkeys unfrozen and ready for the next day, you can join us again virtually. We'll get the information out about how to watch us. You know, but between now and then, between the 25th now and our next meeting together, it will be Thanksgiving. And again, I know we've said it a million times tonight, but I don't think you can say it enough. Thank you very much for all of your support. It's nice to actually see people on the video now. We might change that next time. We might have to watch their videos the whole time, but super grateful that that you shared this the night with us. I know our student athletes appreciate it. I know, hey Jack, our coaches and staff appreciate it. It's been amazing, and Coach mentioned about the new normal, or Donna asked about the new normal and what that, you know, the positives of that. And some of it is just remembering how to connect with people. And if you need to connect virtually, you connect virtually. I was going to mention that my husband and I will be here for Thanksgiving. So if anybody needs like a substitute Zoom call or FaceTime, we're up for it, right? We're going to be spending all day together. So you may need to get us, you know, some time away from that. So again, super grateful for all of our fans and continued support in this really, really interesting time. I'll just wrap it up. Just one more thing to say that communication's key. And so if anybody on this call doesn't feel like they're getting the right information from us in a timely manner, in some form, you know, please reach out. I know Coach sends her emails out, and a lot of you all do reply to her, and I think that's fun. But again, jump on social media. The time is now to try that out if you haven't yet. Either Facebook, Twitter is actually really, really interesting as far as following women's basketball. They have a lot of information. Instagram's fun if you want to jump on that. But we really need to make sure that we stay connected. And this is key here. And that's what this whole COVID has been like. How do you stay connected without seeing each other? And hopefully we can continue to do that. So again, couldn't be more grateful for all of your support and everything that we do here. So thank you very much. Have a great night. And of course, go Huskies. So bye, everybody.